The twin suns of Velkara Prime rose over the golden towers of the Olvari Empire. Inside the high palace walls, Queen Ashari stood silently before a tall glass window. Her silver robes shimmered as she stared at the empty garden below the place where her daughter once played. It had been 7 long years since her child, Princess Alara, had vanished during the night of rebellion. Some believed she had been taken. Others thought she had perished in the escape. But deep in her heart, Ashari refused to accept that her child was gone forever. Each morning, she asked her royal scientists the same question: "Have we found her?" And each morning they gave the same answer: "No, my queen." But today was different. A young royal advisor ran into the hall holding a glowing data tablet. His voice trembled. We found a match, a genetic signal. Royal blood. Coming from a distant world, Earth. Ashari's silver eyes widened. "Earth," she whispered. "That primitive farming planet." He nodded. "Yes, my queen. A quiet sector. No military bases, just soil. And one small human settlement." Without hesitation, Ashari gave the order: "Prepare my ship. We leave for Earth at once." Far away, on the blue planet called Earth, the sun was just beginning to rise over a dry farming field. Tomas Red, a quiet human farmer with rough hands and kind eyes, was already awake. He wore an old hat and boots, covered in dirt. He walked past rows of vegetables and wheat holding a basket of tools. The land was dry, the harvest poor, but Tomas didn't complain, but he had someone to care for when he gave his lonely life. Meaning her name was Mira, a small girl with strange silver eyes and white streaks in her hair. Mira was not like other children. She had been found near a broken pod in the woods behind Tomas's farm. Years ago, just a baby, crying softly in the cold. Tomas had no family, no wife, no children. But that day when he saw her reaching out to him with tiny hands, he made a silent promise: "I'll protect you. You're mine now." Since then, she called him Papa. Mira grew fast. She could speak 5 languages by age 6. Animals listened to her voice. Plants bloomed faster when she touched the soil. The village. People called her strange but kind. She always smiled, always helped. That morning, she was feeding the chickens when she saw something in the sky. "Papa," she called. "There's a shiny ship above the field." Tomas came running. He looked up and saw a large silver vessel slowly descending behind the hills. It didn't look like any human craft he'd ever seen. It was smooth, glowing slightly. With bright blue lights at the bottom, his heart began to pound. On board the ship, Queen Ashari sat tall and still, her golden crown shining under the ceiling lights. She wore no armor, only a simple ceremonial robe. She was not here to fight. She was here to find her child. Her guards stood beside her, alert and silent. The ship hovered over the target zone. A large screen showed the small farmhouse, the fields. Around it, and the girl? Ashari rose from her seat. "Take me to her now." Tomas stood protectively in front of Myra as the Olvari transport lowered from the sky. It landed gently near the edge of the field. The hatch opened, and a tall figure stepped out, glowing silver robes flowing in the wind, her eyes shining like stars. The villagers hid, but Tomas didn't move. Ashari stopped a few feet away, her eyes locked on Mira. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she fell to her knees. "Alara," she whispered, tears falling freely. "My daughter." Mira stared at the strange woman. Something stirred inside her. A memory, a song. Her head tilted slightly. "Do I know you?" she asked softly. Ashari's voice shook. "You were taken from me. I've searched every world, every system, and now, here you are, alive." Tomas stepped forward. "Wait, Mira's my girl," he said, his voice calm but firm. "I raced her. I kept her safe." Ashari looked at him with tearful gratitude, sorrow. "Then I owe you more than I can ever repay." But behind the ship's windows, not all faces were kind. One of HFY's generals watched the scene with cold eyes. He turned to another soldier. If the princess is alive, the old bloodline returns. That changes everything. The soldier frowned. Do you want her gone? The general said nothing. He simply walked away. Outside, the sun set over the quiet farm. The queen had found her daughter. The farmer had something to lose. And far above, something dark began to stir in the stars. The farmhouse was quiet after sunset. The queen had left, returning to her ship, but her presence still lingered like a strange dream. Tomas sat on the old wooden steps, his hands dirty from the fields, his mind heavy with questions. Myra was inside the house, staring out the window. Her silver eyes looked confused and distant. Tomas had raised her, loved her, cared for her like a real daughter. But now, everything was different. The next morning, strange machines hovered in the sky. Small silver drones floated above the field, scanning the land silently. Tomas waved a stick at one of them, but it didn't leave. It simply turned, scanned him, and flew away. Later that day, 3 black vehicles arrived from Earth Central Authority. The men who stepped out wore sharp uniforms and carried data pads. One of them, a tall man with a cold face, walked up to Tomas and said, "You're Tomas Reed. You found the child. We need to talk." Tomas didn't like his tone. He crossed his arms. "She's not a thing you can take. Her name is Mira." "Wait." The man nodded once. "We know. But that child isn't just yours anymore. She's the lost princess of an alien empire. And the queen herself is on Earth." Tomas glanced at the window. Mira was watching. Her eyes full of worry. In space, above Earth, Queen HFY walked through the wide halls of her ship. Her guards stood tall on either side. She entered a round chamber where her advisors waited. One advisor stepped forward. The child shows no memory of her royal past. She speaks like a human, dresses like one, even eats their food, another added, but her DNA is pure Alvari. There is no mistake. She is your daughter. HFY spoke softly, but her voice was clear. I must go to her again. Not as a queen, but as a mother. That afternoon, Myra sat on the porch beside Tomas. She held a wooden toy in her hand, a small dog carved from oak. Tomas had made it for her when she was 5. She rubbed its back gently. "Papa," she said, "am I really from the stars?" Tomas looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "I think so, Pumpkin, but that doesn't change what you mean to me." Mira leaned her head on his shoulder. "But if I came from a queen, does that mean I'm a princess?" Tomas gave a weak smile. "Looks like it. But you're still the same little girl who helped me plant tomatoes and chased chickens barefoot." Just then, a soft hum filled the air. A gentle wind blew across the field. The queen had returned. HFY stepped down from a sleek silver transport and walked slowly toward the farmhouse. This time, she wore no crown. Her robe was simpler, her hands unarmed. Her guards stayed. Behind, Tomas stood up, wary but calm. Mira rose too, her small hand clutching his shirt. HFY knelt before the girl. Her eyes were full of emotion. "May I sit with you?" she asked. Myra nodded slowly. The queen sat on the wooden steps. She looked around. The land was rough, dry, but peaceful. Flowers grew near the house. A broken swing hung from an old tree. "You live a simple life here," HFY said gently. Tomas replied, "We may not have much, but she's happy." The queen turned to Mira. "Do you remember anything about where you came from?" Mira shook her head. "Only dreams, a song, a warm place with stars above my bed." And a woman's voice. HFY's lips trembled. She sang a soft lullaby in the ancient Olvari tongue. Mira's eyes widened. She began humming along, the tune somehow buried deep in her mind. Tears filled the queen's eyes. "That was the song I sang to you when you were a baby." Night fell. Once again, Tomas lit a small fire outside. Queen, Tomas, and Mira sat quietly. No politics, no armies. Just 3 people under a sky full of stars. HFY looked at Tomas. You raised her with love. I can see that. Tomas nodded. She's my whole world. The queen paused, then asked, would you allow me to spend time with her, to get to know her again? Tomas looked at Mira. She smiled and nodded. Only if she wants to, Tomas said. I do, Mira replied. You can stay in the spare room if you like. The queen smiled for the first time in years. I would like that very much. Above Earth, in the shadows of the stars, the Alvari warship floated quietly inside. General Varzak watched the screen. He saw the queen laughing softly beside a human farmer. The princess sitting between them. He clenched his fists. This weakens her. Love makes her blind. Soldier beside him asked, shall we report it to the High Council? Eyes narrowed. For the first time in many years, Queen HFY slept on a bed that was not made of silk or guarded by soldiers. The small guest room in Tomas's farmhouse had an old wooden frame and a blanket stitched by hand. The window showed the open field, not the stars, and yet she slept peacefully in the morning. She woke to the sound of birds and the smell of something cooking. She followed the scent to the kitchen, where Tomas was flipping pancakes and Myra was pouring juice. Myra grinned when she saw her. Good morning, Queen Mom, she said cheerfully. HFY blinked in surprise. Queen Mom? Tomas chuckled. She likes to make new names for people. The queen smiled softly and sat down at the small wooden table. It wasn't a palace, but it felt warm. Later that day, the 3 of them walked through the fields. Myra ran ahead, laughing as she chased butterflies. Tomas and HFY walked side by side. The sun was gentle, the sky a clear blue. You have raised her well, HFY said. Tomas nodded. She changed everything. Before her, it was just me and this land. I had no one. He looked at the queen. I don't know much about your world, but I know this. I love that girl with all my heart. HFY stopped walking. Her voice was quiet but firm, and I respect that. But she is also mine, my blood, my child. I lost her once. I can't lose her again. Tomas looked down at the dirt path. Then maybe we shouldn't make her choose between us. HFY glanced at him, surprised. You would agree to share? Her? If it's what's best for her, that's all that matters. Back in the village, news of the alien queen's stay spread quickly. Some people were curious, others were afraid. Few didn't trust her at all. Why is she here? Is Earth in danger? At farmers keeping a space princess in his house? Rumors grew like weeds. One afternoon, a government officer came to the farm. He wore a dark suit and thin glasses. His voice was polite but cold. Queen HFY, Earth's council requests that you move to a secure city facility. HFY raised her chin. I am not a threat. I am a mother. The man didn't blink. Even so, the council believes it is unsafe for a head of state to live on private property. Tomas stepped in. She's safe here. The girl's happier than I've ever seen her. Why stir things up? The officer replied, because not everyone agrees with her presence, and not everyone wants the princess alive. That night, Tomas sat on the porch with a cup of tea. HFY joined him, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. The stars above were bright. Earth's sky was different than Valkera's, but still beautiful. Your people don't want me here, she said. Quietly, Tomas nodded. Some are afraid. Others are just small-minded. He looked at her, but I'm not. And I think Mira is strong enough to handle both worlds. HFY sighed. I fear that my enemies will try to take her again, not just from me. From you. Tomas looked into the distance. Then we stand together, farmer and queen. They both smiled to very different people, brought together by a child. Meanwhile, as far above, on the dark side of Earth's moon, General Varzak's warship remained hidden. Inside, he watched a screen showing the farmhouse and fields. He turned. To a group of armored soldiers, we strike soon. Quietly. The queen has gone soft. The human is untrained. And the child is powerful. She must not be allowed to rule. A young soldier hesitated. But sir, What if the queen resists? Varzek's eyes narrowed. Then she will fall with the rest. The next morning, Mira was playing with the animals near the barn. She had built a crown of flowers and placed it on the head of an old goat. "You're the king of grass now," she giggled. Suddenly she stopped. Her silver eyes turned to the sky. Something felt wrong. She ran toward the house. "Papa, Queen Mom, I feel something. Something's coming." Tomas came outside, wiping his hands on a towel. "What is it, sweetheart?" Before she could answer, the sky flashed bright. Sharp blue light burst through the clouds. A strange sound filled the air, like a roar mixed with static. A Shirai rushed outside. She looked up, and her face turned pale. "It's them," she whispered. "Varzek's ship." Soldiers in black armor dropped from the clouds, surrounding the farmhouse. Their weapons hummed with energy. The leader pointed at Mira. "By the command of the Olvari High Council, the child is to be taken into custody. Stand down." Shirai stepped in front of Mira, her voice cold and royal. "You will not touch her." Tomas moved beside her, holding a broken farming tool. "You'll have to go through us first." The leader sneered. "That can be arranged." The black-armored soldiers stood in a circle around the farmhouse. Their helmets glowed with red lights. Each one held a long, sharp energy weapon. The grass under their boots burned slightly with every step. Mira held Tomas's hand tightly. Her heart was beating fast. She didn't understand why they were here, but she knew they had come for her. Queen Asharai stepped forward. Her voice strong and clear. "I am Queen Asharai of the Olvari Empire. You will not touch my daughter." The lead soldier removed his helmet. It was General Varzek. His face was hard and cold, his eyes full of hate. "You no longer speak for the Empire, Your Majesty," he said. "Your time is over. The child will be taken. She is a danger to all." Tomas picked up an old metal pitchfork from beside the barn. It was rusty and bent, but he held it like a sword. "I don't care who you are. You're not taking her." Varzek raised a hand. "Then you will fall with her." He shouted a command in Olvari language, and his soldiers moved forward. Suddenly, the wind shifted. The air around Mira began to hum. The ground beneath her feet glowed faintly. The flowers in the field lifted their heads toward her. The birds stopped flying. Everything became quiet. Tomas looked down at Myra. "Sweetheart, are you okay?" Myra's silver eyes were glowing now like to stars. She stepped forward slowly, letting go of Tomas's hand. "Don't hurt my family," she said softly. The soldiers stopped. Varzek pointed his weapon at her. "She's awakening. Take her now." But before anyone could move, a wave of light burst out from Mira's body. It wasn't loud. It wasn't violent. It was calm and beautiful like moonlight. Spreading across the sea, the energy pushed the soldiers backward. Their weapons powered down. Their armor flickered. Mira raised one hand. The ground rumbled. A large vine shot up from the soil and grabbed Varzek's leg. More vines rose, holding back the rest of the soldiers. She turned to them, her voice strong. "Leave. Us, or the earth itself, will stop you." Varzek screamed in rage. He pulled a hidden blade from his side and threw it at Tomas. Mira's eyes widened in a blink. Ashurai jumped in front of Tomas. The blade hit her shoulder, not his. She dropped to one knee, her face pale with pain. "Mama!" Mira cried out. Rushing to her, Tomas caught her as she stumbled. "You're hurt." Asharai held her arm, blood flowing from the wound. "I'm fine. Had to protect him. You both are my heart now." Varzek roared. "Fools! You would protect a human. You would protect a farmer instead of your empire." Tomas stood, face red with anger. "I'm just a farmer, but I raised that girl, fed her, loved her, protected her. I didn't need an empire. I just needed her to smile." More soldiers landed from above, but something had changed. The vines retreated. The glowing light around Mira faded slowly. She was tired, but her spirit was strong. She walked to the center of the field and spoke loudly. "I am Myra of Earth and Velkara. I choose both my families. I will not be taken, and I will not let hate win." The soldiers looked at each other. Some of them slowly lowered their weapons. One of them, a younger Olvari, moved his helmet. His eyes were filled with wonder. She has the gift of the first queen, he said. We were told it was only legend. Varzek's control was slipping. He shouted, Cowards, obey me. But more soldiers stepped back. We followed the true queen, one said, the child she loves. Varzek reached for another weapon, but this time, Ashari stood tall and aimed her hand at him. A beam of silver energy struck the ground beside him. Enough, she said. You have dishonored the Empire. He looked at her, eyes full of fury. You've grown weak, soft. She stepped closer. No, I've grown wise. Love is not weakness. It is power. It saved her. It saved me. The Olvari soldiers took Varzek into custody. He was silent, but his eyes burned with hate as they dragged him back to the ship. Peace slowly returned to the field. Mira ran to Tomas and hugged him tightly. I'm okay, Papa. He held her close. You scared me, Pumpkin? But I've never been more proud. Ashari walked toward them, holding her wounded arm. The Earth Council will ask questions, she said. There will be more challenges ahead. Tomas nodded. Then we face them together. Mira smiled. Together. That evening, as the sun set and the stars began to shine, the farmhouse was quiet again. The queen rested inside. Mira slept peacefully in her room. Tomas sat on the porch, looking at the sky. He had no crown, no soldiers, no power, but somehow, he had helped save a princess, in the heart of a queen, and the universe would never be the same. The battle was over. Varzek was gone. The Olvari soldiers had returned to their ship, now loyal again to Queen Ashari. The field where the attack happened was quiet, but something had changed forever. Mira sat alone under the old tree behind. The farmhouse. The wind moved gently through the leaves. A small bird landed on her shoulder. She smiled, but her eyes were full of thought. She had powers. She had a mother who ruled an empire. And she had a father who planted potatoes and made her laugh 2 lives, 2 worlds. And now she had to choose. Inside the house, Tomas and Queen Ashari sat at the kitchen table. Tomas poured tea for both of them. Her injured arm was wrapped. In cloth, she looked tired but calm. Tomas spoke first. She's been sitting out there for a long time. Ashari nodded. She has much to think about. Her life is no longer simple. Tomas looked out the window. She's still a kid. Needs time and love, not politics. Ashari smiled faintly. You speak like a wise king, Tomas. He laughed a little. I'm just a farmer. Never ruled anything but this land. She looked at him kindly. But you gave her something greater than a kingdom. You gave her a home. That evening, Mira returned to the house. She walked in quietly and sat between the 2 adults. Both turned to her gently. I've been thinking, she said. I don't want to leave either of you. Tomas and Ashari glanced at each other. Then what do you want, sweetheart? Tomas asked. Mira took a deep breath. I want to stay. On Earth, but I also want to learn about Velkara. No. I want to help both places. I want to be both Mira and Alara. Ashari placed a hand over Mira's. You wish to build a bridge between Earth and the Olvari? Mira nodded. Yes, maybe I can help others like me. Maybe we don't need to choose one world. Maybe we can belong to both. 2 days later, Queen Ashari stood before the Earth Council in a tall white building made of glass and steel. Leaders and diplomats from all over the planet sat in silence as she spoke. I am not here to take my daughter away, she said. I am here to offer peace, truth, and a future built on trust. She explained how Mira was found, how Tomas raised her, and how their love protected her during the attack. The room was quiet for a long time. Then the Earth's president, a woman with short silver hair, stood. You asked for peace. But how do we? No, this alliance is real. Sure, I smiled, because the strongest part of it was built by a farmer and a child, not by soldiers or kings. The room filled with quiet whispers. Mira stepped forward. I'm not a weapon, she said. I'm not just a princess either. I'm a girl from Earth. I'm also from the stars. Let me help both places." One by one, the council members nodded. The decision was made. Back on the farm, Thomas sat on the porch again. The sky above was pink and orange as the sun began to set. He held a photo of Mira when she was just 3, wearing an oversized hat and smiling with missing teeth. The door opened. HFY walked out and sat beside him. "You'll miss her," she said. Tomas nodded. "Every day." "Often, and she'll carry your heart with her," the queen added. He looked at her. "You really think she can handle both worlds?" HFY smiled proudly. "She's stronger than both of us." A week later, a small ceremony was held on Neutral, land between Earth and the stars. A new diplomatic center was opened, shared by both planets. Mira stood in front of a crowd wearing a soft silver robe stitched with Earth symbols. Her crown was simple, made of starlight metal and oak wood. One hand held a seed from the farm. The other, a crystal from Valkara. She planted the seed in the soil. "Let this be the first root of peace," she said. The plant sprouted within seconds, glowing blue leaves, blooming toward the sky. Applause filled the air as the ceremony ended. Mira ran back to Tomas. "Did I do okay, Papa?" Tomas hugged her tightly. "You did perfect, Pumpkin. The whole galaxy's proud of you." HFY joined them, and so are we. The 3 stood together, farmer, queen, and child. Not as rulers or heroes, but as family. The small farmhouse stood quietly under the stars. It had seen war, peace, fear, and love, but now it stood as a symbol of something new. Where once there was only dry soil and silence, there were now voices from across the galaxy speaking. Of hope, Queen HFY had returned to Valkara, but she had not gone alone. Beside her on the royal ship was her daughter Mira. Once thought lost, now known across the stars as the Bridge Child. The one who united to distant worlds. And far behind them, watching from his porch, as Tomas read, the simple farmer who had raised her. Months passed. The Valkyran Empire changed slowly.
Ow.
Like a great mountain shifting with time. Old laws were rewritten. New voices were heard. Mira sat beside her mother in the royal court, not as a puppet princess, but as a symbol of balance. She wore no heavy jewels. She spoke in soft words. She reminded the empire of something they had. Forgotten kindness. Every day. Mira learned the ways of the stars. She studied the ancient language of her people. She trained in peaceful arts. She visited the sick and the poor, even though others called her royal. She never forgot the wooden floor of her Earth home, the sound of wind in the wheat. And each night, she sent a message back home. Tomas kept every one bright day. Mira stood in the great garden of Valkara with Queen HFY. The garden had once been closed to all but royalty. Now it was open to the people. Children played there, laughing under the sky domes. Vines grew along white stone walls. Trees from Earth stood side by side with Olvari crystals. They never used to laugh. Here HFY said, watching the children. Mira smiled. They laugh now. The queen looked at her daughter. "You've changed more than a planet, Mira. You've changed me." Mira hugged her. "You saved me first. Then Tomas gave me a home. Now I want to give that to others." Back on Earth, life returned to its calm. Rhythm Tomas continued to farm, though now he had helpers, people who came just to see where the Bridge Child was raised. Reporters, travelers, even children with shining eyes stood in his field asking questions. But Tomas remained the same. He woke early, he watered his crops, he repaired the fence when the wind broke it. Some offered him wealth. Others offered him power. He refused both. "I don't need more," he would say. "I already raised a queen." Then one morning, as the sun rose, a familiar sound filled the air, a low hum, soft and smooth. Tomas looked up to see a silver ship descending gently onto his land. The door opened, and Mira stepped out. She was taller now. Her robes shimmered with soft light. But her smile was still the same. Tomas dropped his tools and ran toward her. She hugged him tightly. "I'm home, Abba." He held her for a long time. I knew you'd come back. That evening, the three of them, Mira, Tomas, and Queen Asherice, around a small campfire behind the farmhouse. There was no crown on the queen's head, and no guards in sight, only stars above, and the smell of earth all around them. Asherai looked at the simple land. You called this a broken field once? She said to Tomas. He nodded. The soil was tired. The rain didn't come much. I almost gave up before Mira arrived. The queen smiled. Now it has grown something greater than wheat, Mira added. It grew a new future. The next morning, Mira stood on a small hill. Near the field, people from both Earth and Velkara had gathered. Some wore suits, some wore robes, some held flowers, and some held hands. She stood between two flags, one blue with stars, the other silver with a glowing crest. She spoke clearly. This is where I was found. Where I grew, where I was loved. My father gave me roots. My mother gave me wings. Now I give you this promise. No matter how far we travel, peace must always begin here on the ground, between people who choose to care. She placed her hand on the soil, and from it rose a tree part oak, part Olvari crystal. Its leaves shimmered like starlight. Years later, that place became a universal peace site, known across galaxies as the Field of Unity. Diplomats, rulers, and even enemies came to sit under the tree, hoping for wisdom. They said a child once planted it. A child raised by a farmer, found by a queen, and loved by both. And at the center of it all stood a small wooden farmhouse, sin changed by time. Inside, an old man rocked gently in a chair, smiling at the stars.